recording. All right, excellent. Hello, everyone joining us from beyond. And we have a quorum present for our board deliberations for the date starting June 25th, 2024, 2:32 p.m. The chair recognizes and declares a quorum present. And for everyone out there, we have new board members joining us. So I will give them a moment to introduce themselves and give their personal statements as we move along in the agenda. But I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware that that will be happening. And we have at this point declaration of quorum, and are there, per the agenda that has been posted online as well, are there any additions to the agenda? All right, hearing none, seeing none. We are moving forward with the approval of the minutes for the open and closed, but open meeting 5/23/2024. Understand that two of our members present, our newest members present, were not present during that meeting, so they will abstain from this vote. So we or approval of the board members minutes. The chair is open for a motion to approve the draft minutes from the open meeting 5/23/24. Jake?
Like to move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Properly seconded. Thank you very much. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you. Unanimous approval. Now, also for the closed meeting, all those that were present, the chair would entertain a motion. Jake?
Would like to move to approve the closed meeting minutes.
Thank you very much. They are in draft form at this time. And is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. So moved. Thank you. We have a unanimous vote to approve the draft closed meeting minutes for 5/23/2024. All right. Before we move on to the administrator's report, who at this session will be delivered to us by our deputy administrator, Catherine Berry, at her time, but she's been gracious enough to allow the new members to give us their introduction and or statements for their service. At this time, I'd like to begin with Victoria Jackson Stanley, who's joined us.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I am officially Victoria Jackson Stanley, but I like to be called Vicki Stanley. And please feel free to do that. If you're more comfortable with Victoria, that's fine. I am, first of all, very honored and proud to be part of this body. It is unexpected honor, but I will do my best to give my support and wisdom, as little I have, to this body so the state of Maryland can be glorified. From the Eastern Shore of Maryland, Cambridge, born and bred, went away, went to college, came back, and I've always been civic minded. I've been driving people to the polls since I was 17, even before I could vote. My parents were civil rights leaders here in Cambridge, so I was always a part of the movement to do more for your community, which I feel this is something I can offer. For those who don't know, I was mayor of the city of Cambridge from 2008 to 2021, being the first Black and the first female mayor in the more than 200-year history of our community. A great honor. I don't take myself seriously, but I take my job and my responsibilities seriously. I have a weird sense of humor, so if I say something that is offending to you, please forgive me, but no harm, no foul. I'm excited. If I ramble on, just say, Vicki, stop. I don't mind, because I as I used to tell people when I made speeches, I love the mic and the mic loves me. And this is one of my new forums for speaking. I want to thank the governor for giving me an opportunity to be part of this august group, because this is not something that you take lightly. I've been reading everything that I could get my hands on. I was really particularly interested with the comments of our constituents from across the state regarding Comar 33040203. I have listed the comments, particularly from my folk from Crisfield and Easton and Chance. These people, we on the shore don't make statements lightly. If we're speaking up and identifying ourselves, that means we have something to say and take us seriously. So when I speak up, and I promised Jake when I spoke with him the other day, I won't say much, but when I say something, I absolutely mean what I say, just like every Eastern Shore person. And with that, thank you again, and I will be quiet.
No problem. Thank you. You will learn very quickly that your voice is paramount, as all of our voice is paramount, and we will have sessions that end at 8 o'clock. So anyway, going on, we do the marathon here. All right, it's all good. We all are very proud of what we do and what we bring and who we represent, which is every constituent in the state of Maryland. So if it takes the time, we have the time, and let's do it. All right, Jake, did you want to say something before Jim?
Can I just say something super quick, Mr. Chair? Ms. Stanley is too humble to brag on herself. So I will, among her other, and I'm the one on the board who talks the most, so don't you worry about that. Among her achievements, she is the first African-American and the first female mayor of Cambridge. And served that position with distinction, did a hell of a lot, and just want to lift that up. I know we're all really excited to have you on this board, but just want to make sure that gets noted as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank
No
you.
problem. Thank you very much, Jake. Jim Shallak, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Excellent.
Perfect.
So very
Perfect.
much. It's your floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I echo what Victoria said. It's truly an honor and a privilege to be with all of you. I can't wait to get to know all of you more in depth and personally. I do certainly want to thank the governor and Secretary Edwards for their faith in me and their confidence in me. I also want to thank Nicole Harris, the state Republican chair, who proffered my name and supports me, and I'm grateful to all of them for their support. I'll tell you, my background briefly, I'm a kid from the Lower East Side of New York, grew up in New York public schools, went to Tulane University, back to New York Law School. And basically my professional background was in law enforcement. I was an assistant DA in the Bronx. And for 12 years, 10 of those years I was in homicide. 3 of those years I was chief of homicide of the Bronx. Supervising 435 murders a year, 30 or 35 prosecutors, and about 80 detectives. 3 years as homicide chief. I guess my calling card, when it's all over for me, is I prosecuted David Berkowitz, the son of Sam Killer, for the murders in the Bronx. Then I was appointed Assistant Attorney General of New York State. From Rochester West, I was the chief prosecutor, mostly white collar crime, public corruption, corrupt judges, tax evasion, white collar stuff. Then in '89, I received a nice appointment to the United States Department of Justice. And my family, we moved down here in 1989 to work in justice. We moved here for 2 years, 35 years ago. So we've been here for 35 years. Planning to spend 2 years here. After a while, I became involved in Republican politics, left justice, ran for state's attorney, then ran for judge, and most recently I ran for state attorney general. I was chairman of the Republican Party in Montgomery County, so I was very active in the party, which no longer is the case. And I'm in private practice in Montgomery County. I do want to thank the governor and the secretary very much, and Ms. Harris. This is a tremendous honor I wasn't an election guy until Governor Hogan put me on the Montgomery County Board of Elections, where I was president for 6 years. And that was a big job, big challenge. And basically, I didn't know 80% of what I now know. It was challenging. It was difficult, at times contentious. It was a tough road, but we got it done. We brought the county through COVID. I would say that under my direction, we processed and canvassed, I want to say over 1 million votes, had to be, or close to 1 million votes, more than many states and countries. And let me say that I was so impressed with the staff and working with Linda Lamone and Nikki Charlson and now with Jared and Katie. I've never been more impressed with the integrity of the elections in our state. Let me just say there was an article about 3 weeks ago, which I guess we're all used to, you know, these articles that give wrong impressions and are misleading and false innuendos. Let me make this very clear, very clear. Basically, this article insinuated that I didn't know if there was any fraud, therefore there must have been fraud in our elections, and I was like hiding it. NO. Let me say this, in my 6 years, with the over 1 million votes that passed through our collective work, no one ever brought any evidence to me or to the board, in my knowledge, of fraud or any deceit in our elections. No one, zero. Now, when I was asked by this reporter, was there any fraud? Do you know if there's any fraud? Basically, what I meant to say, and obviously didn't come out right, you don't know if there's any fraud unless someone tells you. I mean, did Susie Smith pick up her uncle's ballot from the kitchen table and vote it and mail it in? You tell me. Over about 700,000 registered voters, 1 million votes cast. Did somebody do something improper? How do we know if you're not told? But let me say this, we have never, ever seen any evidence of fraud in Montgomery County. If the public out there has got it, tell us. Not innuendo, not political speak. You got evidence of fraud, bring it forward. I didn't see any, zero. The elections in Montgomery County and in the state, to my knowledge, have been safe and secure. And it's an honor to be here to continue that, But my message to the public is if you have evidence of fraud, you tell us. You tell us, not the newspaper, not a political club, you tell us and we'll deal with it. But it's an honor to be here. I just wanted to straighten that out. And I'm always available. Please, everybody, call me Jim. I'm really excited to do this task. And lastly, Katie, let me just say this. I probably should have thanked him first because I wouldn't be on the call. I want to thank David Walker on your IT team. It took me like 3 days to get into this meeting, and I didn't realize you had to be, going through the encrypted, which I can't even spell, get into this encrypted meeting. I didn't realize you had to be an astrophysicist or a graduate of astronaut school to get through. But
Well, I appreciate that, Jim. And I'm sure, our security personnel does too, because it's also protecting our electoral process. So you can see how arduous it would be for someone to try and intervene in that universe, in our electoral process. So I totally respect that. Did you have something else?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank David and Katie and everybody who's navigated me through the system. I'm very proud to be here and work with all of you in a bipartisan manner. Bipartisan is the key. I guess the one thing I miss most in the county board, and I will miss here, to be candid, I miss my friends in politics, but once I click onto this meeting, there's no more politics with me. No more politics. Will I miss some of these people? Yes. But I pledge that there'll be no political considerations from me ever, capital ever. And Mr. Chair, it's an honor to work with you. I know your background, and I got tremendous faith in you to lead us in the right direction. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Jim, and recognizing the significance of our democracy resting on two of the principles you mentioned is the rule of law and the universal suffrage. So protecting those two things, working in accord with those two principles, I think we will be able to work in a bipartisan manner. It's paramount to uphold our democracy as we proceed. Being open-minded, being somewhat respectful. I say it somewhat. Being respectful. I know. Jake was waiting for that one. Being respect. You'll see. Being respectful of each other's point of view, no matter where it comes from, it's coming from a place to ensure our deliberative process is open. Okay. And I will honor and support that as much as time permits. And with that being said, welcome you two to our Board of Elections for the people of
Thank you.
Maryland.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, Catherine Berry, in the agenda, we are ready for your first ever State Administrator's Report deliverance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Thank you to all of the board members. Welcome to our new board members. We will be reviewing the administrator's report. You all should have a copy of it. And I will kick off with some important announcements. On June 14th, Mel Franklin resigned from his position at.
Can you
as-
speak up, Katie?
I can.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. On June 14th, Mel Franklin resigned from his position as an at-large county council member in Prince George's County. So pursuant to the county charter, Prince George's County is going to hold a special election to fill this vacancy. The State Board of Elections is working very closely with the local board to coordinate and to be ensured that both the special election and the general election will be successfully administered. Also, beginning in July, the State Board of Elections will have a new division led by a director of audits. This division is going to perform monthly audits as well as pre-election and post-election audits in the registration system. We also are going to be recruiting for a chief information security officer in the very near future. With that, I will turn over the next section for election reform and management to Melissa Dorsey, who is the Assistant Deputy of Election Policy. So Melissa?
Thanks, Katie. Welcome, everyone. I'm Melissa, and I work really closely with Katie and oversee a couple of the divisions here at SBE. So she's asked me just to give you some high-level stuff about what's going on in election reform and voter registration. So the team has shared a lot of great information here. I'll just hit on a couple of the things. We are in full preparation for mail-in voting for the general. And we are preparing kind of at the same time prior to this being written. We're preparing for some mail-in voting for the PG County special. So we're doing those both in unison right now. We added some figures here, gave some last month on mail-in voting for the primary, but added some of the final numbers here for the number of mail-in ballots sent and returned, and then the overall percent of voter turnout that was by mail for this election. Also related to mail-in voting is curing by text. We have the final numbers in for that. That was a new initiative statewide for the primary. We had 68 people use it. We're working with the vendor now to hopefully extend the solution that we use to offer that to voters through the general, and plan to continue to use that for voters who need to provide a signature for an otherwise unsigned ballot. Election judge recruitment In the primary, just some numbers that I know that some folks had interest in. 75% of the election judges hired were returning from a previous year. As many of you know, there was some legislation passed that offered a bonus to returning judges, and it worked. So 75% of them came back. And as far as raw numbers, it was about 20,000 election judges statewide on election day, and then 15,000 for early voting. I'm going to go through kind of all of election reform and management, and then I'll pause and see if you guys have any questions or, oh, well, never mind. Michael has his hand up. So go ahead, Michael.
You're on mute.
Mute.
That was the whole purpose of me raising my hand, folks, to maintain some decorum. There's a little button at the bottom down here that says raise your hand. I see that hand. I will call on you if you have a question in lieu of the speaker finishing. But you know, that's how we will maintain flow. And I'll try to call on the first one I see. Okay. All right. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks, Michael. We are still in our post-election audits phase. Our first audit is a clear ballot automated audit. That's a mouthful. And we have wrapped that up. The vendor there is Clear Ballot. Again, it's something that we do very quickly. It's tied to the county and state certification requirements. And everything from that audit came back within the guidelines for the state. We are now moving toward our comprehensive audit, which really is quite comprehensive. It is a very long audit of a lot of for lack of a better word, squishier things. So the agency has several folks that contribute to that, and it's coordinated by one individual, and it will be several months in the making, and we will report back to the LBEs any of the findings that we have that come from the Clear Ballot audit. I will take a moment. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If not, I will kind of plow ahead to voter registration. Okay, cool. So MD Voters, for those of you that are new to our agency, it is our voter registration database. So when you see that in here, that's what that is. When we close voter registration, it closes 21 days before the election and then reopens after the close of the election. We hold all the transactions that would come from like MVA or paper transactions or our online systems. So our local boards play a ton of catch up this time of year, just processing those transactions. It's hundreds of thousands of transactions that have to be processed. So that happened, and most local boards are caught up, but some of our larger LBs are still processing those. A couple of things in terms of list maintenance. We share data with a couple agencies to make sure that our voter registration lists are up to date. One of them is the Department of Health. Vital statistics, to be specific. For those of you that have been on the board for a little while, it's been an ongoing dialogue about getting up-to-date and current information from MDH. We did finally lock in a new memorandum of understanding to get death records from both in and out of state. And then we asked them to send over a retroactive file for any that we may not have gotten. So we have done all of that. We've started getting new, better data. And then we've also gotten retroactive data that we pushed out to our local boards, and they are probably still in the process of processing. It was quite a bit of information. Another way that we're working on making our voter registration more accurate is we had some departmental legislation that changed the data that we're getting from the administrative office of the courts. In 2016, there was a change to the eligibility requirements for individuals who are eligible to vote, who have been convicted of a felony offense. And the law never really caught up with that in terms of the data that we were getting. So now the laws match, and we are working with, we call them AOC, the Administrative Office of the Courts, and to implement the law. The implementation date is January, and we hope to meet that and maybe do a little bit better. We do monthly audits as well. These will, as Katie mentioned, soon move over to our new audits division. We're super excited about it. And these are audits of the local boards of elections and their compliance with all of the laws and regulations and policies that go along with voter registration. So again, it's a very comprehensive program, and it will be moved over to the audit program hopefully next month, or the audit division next month. We participate in ERIC, the Electronic Registration Information Center, and that is just across state sharing of information to, again, make sure that our lists are accurate. They also have a program that seeks to identify and share with law enforcement individuals who vote in more than one state. Right now, both efforts are underway. We're doing our normal list maintenance. And then also at the beginning stages of what they call the voter participation program to identify potential cross-state voters. MVA had, so the information that we give to ERIC, we get from the Motor Vehicle Administration. MVA had a little bit, they had an upgrade to their system, which changed the data that was being sent to us to send to ERIC. So we've been in a little bit of a holding pattern in terms of being able to get them our information. I believe as of today, we are out of that holding pattern, crossing our fingers, and then we'll be able to send them our file so that they can share that out with other states. As I mentioned, we get a ton of transactions from the Motor Vehicle Administration. They come directly to us, as well as for us to go to ERIC. And we have some numbers and charts here in terms of just how many sheer number we've gotten, and then the change from month to month. Obviously, there's a little bit of a dip when we close registration, but then that pops back up again. And then I think the final thing for me is we just give you a monthly number of the current registered voters, which is there under the charts. And if anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer them. If not, I am happy to turn it over to Alan.
Hi, everyone. My name is
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Melissa. It looks a lot. Thank you, Melissa, very much. Looks like we have a question for you from Diane. Go ahead, Diane.
I just had a quick question. How many states are we down to with ERIC now? How many states are participating?
I will have to get back to you on that. I just gave that number out. I believe it's in the 20s, but I don't want to say the wrong thing. So let me let you know, Diane.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
All right, with that, she passes it off to Alan at this time.
Hi, welcome new members, current members. Good afternoon. I'm going to go over the Candidacy and Campaign Finance Division section. We had a spring business contribution disclosure report due on May 31st. And that was a successful filing. We had some changes in the law, so we had a lot of questions, but we made it through. Our next report for candidate committees and PACs in the presidential cycle is due August 27th. In the next section, we're going over the updates in the public financing programs. The Baltimore Cities is pretty much wrapped up. One candidate has went on to the general, Zach Blanchard, and he is maxed out of the program. So there is no further matching for that program. And petition candidates are not eligible according to the city solicitor. Baltimore County is moving forward with their commission. They have 7 out of 9 members appointed, and they have a budget recommendation of $1 million for fiscal year 2025. Prince George's County is also moving forward, where they have appointed all of their commissioners, and they have $400,000 appropriated in fiscal 2024. And they're working on 2025 budget, and they can qualify as early as July 1st, 2025. The next section, the state fund, the Fair Campaign Fund, it has $9.4 million. And then the next section is just some statistics for MD Chris and our business contribution disclosure system. So you can definitely see a jump in business disclosure. And then below that, we have a list of the civil penalties paid for the month and just candidates with issues such as missing authority line, missing disclosures, unauthorized methods, it's the usual. And then there's just a chart of statistics for our website that follow that. Does anybody have any questions for me?
All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Alan, you're free and clear. Good job.
Oh,
Thank you very
awesome.
much.
Thanks.
All right. No, back to you, Katie.
Thank you. I will turn it over to Fred, our Chief Information Officer.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the new members. Glad to have you aboard. So as far as the information systems and technology, as well as cybersecurity, a little bit of explanation. I know the new members might not know what an MITDP is. It's a major IT development project. Typically, if we do have any of those, we don't always. That's what we report on here. A major IT development project is something that is determined by the Maryland Department of IT, DO-IT. And the three that we are working on right now are new poll book project. So that is underway. We actually are running under a contingency to a former poll book project that we used the contingency of using the old poll books for the primary election, and we will do the same for the general election, as well as most likely the 2026 election. We also have, and we're also kicking off a new poll book project to get new poll books in. The plan is to get them in for the 2028 election, if not sooner. We also have a new voting system project underway. The RFP, the request for proposals for that new system, it's a major system. It's statewide. It goes in, all of the counties and Baltimore City. So the RFP is underway on that. And we also have a major IT project for the new campaign reporting information system, currently called MD Chris. That RFP was actually released, and we're looking forward to seeing responses to that RFP. As far as cybersecurity goes, we do have, for those of you who are not aware, we have a security operations center. It is a 24/7, 365 security operations center that continuously monitors all of our critical systems. So that is in place. It has been for a while, and it continues to be in place. Also, we have briefings with our cyber partners, federal agencies, and others between now and the general election to keep us informed on anything that they may have heard about through the grapevine or through their monitoring techniques, so that we then can be prepared for hopefully anything that might come up. Does anyone have any questions for me?
I had a question.
All right,
Yeah.
Jim, go ahead.
Thank you, thank you, Chair. Fred, going through your report, are you basically saying that we're replacing the existing voting system, the paper and the scanners? Our present system is being replaced?
Yes, the entire voting system, the equipment, the machinery, the scanners. It's old. It's way before my time, so it's definitely time to replace it.
But the way people vote will be the same. It's just different equipment.
Correct. With voting systems, it all has to be federally certified. So anything that we choose will not only be federally certified, it will also be certified by the state of Maryland.
Okay, so we're not changing how people vote, just the equipment that they're using.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks, Fred. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you. Jake?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question for the new voting system. project and and Chris, do we have any estimate in terms of timeline? I know that we have that for the poll book project.
So you want the new voting system, the estimated timeline is, right now it's 2026, 2028. So it really depends on how the responses from the RFP come in and how long that all takes.
And when do we expect to begin procurement on that one?
The procurement phase has already begun. We are writing the RFP as we speak. We're also sending out an RFI to get information to actually help guide us and on the RFP to make sure, you want to make sure you don't overwrite the RFP. That's all in process. Like I mentioned with the CRIS system, the RFP has already gone out. We're awaiting responses for that.
And are we still estimating for the new CRIS to be in place for the 2026 cycle?
Yes, we are. The old CRIS contract runs out March 31st, 2025. So we would like to have the new CRIS in place by then. If there's contingencies in place where we would extend the old if we needed to, but it is definitely planned for 2026.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And my question is for the RFP process, what is the timeline on receiving responses? Is there a deadline is it a month out before
So-
close? Yeah.
Yes, for CRIS, there is a deadline and it's less than a month away. And the other ones aren't out yet. So
Okay.
there will be a deadline. Typically it's 30 to 45 days.
That's that part. Okay. Thank you very much. All right. So that turnaround time could be is pretty much around the corner for those proposals to be in and then reviewed.
Yes, definitely
Selected.
scheduled for this fiscal year.
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
yeah. July 1 fiscal year. Yeah.
Excellent. Wow. Thank you very much. All right. With that, Katie, yeah, back to you.
All right, thank you. I am going to cover the following sections under procurement. As Fred just mentioned, the new CRIS system is in development. And active procurements, we do have election support resources task orders. This is to help with our staffing contracts. These task orders include a variety of labor categories for IT, the warehouse, poll books, MD voters, and these individuals are utilized in the State Board of Elections and then the local board of election level as well. Under the modifications in procurement, we just had modification number 44 for the voting system solution. This modification extended the contract through the 2026 election cycle for us to use the current ES&S voting system. This is the contingency plan if we do not have a new voting system procured and able to be utilized in the 2026 election. Voting system solution modification number 45 was also approved by the Board of Public Works on June 5th. And that was to obtain 250 ADA compliant voting equipment tables that are used with the ballot marking devices for the general election. The poll book contract that we have with ES&S was an extension for the Easy Roster license that we use on the current electronic poll books used for in-person voting. So this will ensure that we have a viable product to use in case we have any special elections in 2025 and in 2026 if we do not have a new electronic poll book solution. This is SPE's contingency plan because the Demtech voting systems defaulted on their contract and that contract was terminated. So as Fred also mentioned, we have various RFIs out regarding the electronic statewide voter registration system, the poll book solution, and the new voting system. We also have a cure request that the procurement department is working through. This is with our surge staffing vendor, Abacus. following the primary election to address the recruitment shortfalls that we encountered for the primary election. I will pause before I go to the next section if anyone has any questions on procurement. Okay, thank you. For project management, the big task that we are working through right now is statewide inventory. That needs to be completed by June 30th for closeout of the fiscal year. So our regional manager team, they work at the State Board of Elections level, but they are delegated around the county based on region, are working closely with the local boards to make sure that we meet all of the deadlines for the inventory system. And under local board news, the local boards of elections, as Melissa said, they are working really hard to get the voter registration backlog completed. There are ERIC reports that they are working on. Many local boards also have petitions. And the IT divisions at the local boards are also beginning to work on post-election maintenance of the voting equipment as they prepare for the general election. We are continuing to have our monthly collaboration meetings with the local boards of elections, and we also have a small tabletop exercise planned in August. We are partnering with the Maryland Department of Emergency Management on completing that exercise. And with that, Mr. Chair, I am submitting the administrator's report.
Thank you very much. Any questions or discussion? All right. Thank you very much, Katie. Moving on, Dan.
Chair, and you, all the members, and welcome to our new members. It's wonderful to serve a full 5-member board again. You should all have copies of
Dan, I
Assistant
think
Attorney.
if you could turn up your volume, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no problem. Is this better?
A little, say something.
Can you hear me? Is it picking up my voice?
It is, the volume is low. Your voice is low.
You might just need to project a little bit more, Dan.
Okay.
Sorry.
Possibly.
I can speak a little. I can yell at my computer.
No, please don't.
Oh, yeah.
We're good. Thank you.
All the members should have copies of a copy of my Assistant Attorney General's report, which lists all the current litigation in which the board is involved. For our newest members, you might not realize this, but the 3 cases, Sullivan v. Summers, Wacomico County branch of the NAACP, and Gibson v. Frederick, have no updates. They are in exactly the same posture as they were in last month's meeting.
Okay.
There are no updates there. The only update for Maryland Election Integrity v. the State Board is that as of last month's meeting, the plaintiffs had appealed SBE's win to the 4th Circuit, and since then there's now a briefing schedule. The appellants now, the people who brought the appeal, will be briefing the 4th Circuit by July 9th, and SBE will have 30 days to file a responsive brief thereafter. OAG will be drafting and filing that brief on SBE's behalf.
Thank you very much, Dan. Any questions or concerns for Dan? All right, hearing none, seeing none. Thank you very much. Moving on to Alan with Title 13, Title 14, waivers. If you could give us a very brief overview or an overview for our new members, what those entail and how we, their purpose. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So Title 13 covers candidate committees, PACs, central committees, everything except for businesses Title 14. So that, just to clarify that. And this is their request for a waiver for their late filing fees. And in your packet, there are 9 approvals to waive the late fees. And we have 2 denials. And I am here to answer any questions that you may have.
Now,
Go ahead, Jim.
no, just a quick process question. So these are individuals or groups that have filed campaign finance reports, correct?
Correct.
But their reporting has been late or deficient in some way?
Late. They've been
Late?
late. Yes.
And they give the staff the reason why they were late and ask that they not be fined, that the fine be waived. Is that correct?
Correct. And they give, different life events happen or, technical problems. So they'll give us their reasons for the late filing, and then we present it to you for vote.
Okay, so your staff has gone through and given their recommendations what to do. Is that correct?
So I do the initial review, and then I consult with Jared, and Jared has a glance over. And so it goes to kind of 2 levels of review before it gets to for your vote.
But you've already made a determination and
Correct.
okay,
Yeah,
Thanks.
this is our recommendation.
thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Alan. And yes,
Sure.
Jim, we will be voting on the recommendation put forward by the state board. All
Gotcha.
right, Vicky? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Full disclosure, in the spirit of transparency, I wanted to just report to this board that back in 2024, a colleague of mine, a friend of mine, wanted to run for office here in Dorchester County and then decided to withdraw for health reasons. I was her treasurer at the time, had no clue what I was doing as treasurer, and I got one of these notices from the state election board. I was able to cure it based on asking for a waiver, and you all, on the board at the time, very graciously allowed us to have those waivers, the late fees waived. But I just wanted to put it out there that I was one of these people, and transparency, I don't want any questions later, because I was very aware of how this does happen. I had no idea. I was late, and then I asked for the waiver. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
Hey, no problem. Thank you very much for sharing. And with that, Dan, Alan, I'm sorry, you just
Yeah.
covered Title 13. You didn't do Title 14.
I haven't
correct?
done Title 14
All
yet.
right, so with Title 13 late fees waiver request, the chair is open for a motion. Yes, Jake?
I'd like to move that we accept the recommendation on Title 13 waiver request.
Is
I
there a
second.
second? Is properly
Second.
seconded. All those who are in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. It is unanimously approved. Thank you very much, Alan. On to Title 13, Title 14 waivers, late fees and disclosure of contracted information.
Okay, this is we have businesses, the example of businesses that file with us, nonprofits file with us, corporations file with us if they have contracts with the state of over 200,000. So that's what we're talking about in this situation. So we have 4 approvals and 1 denial to present.
All right. Any questions or concerns from the members?
So
Yes,
these,
go ahead, Diane.
so this is for the businesses if they have contracts with the state. That's what I was looking for because
Yeah.
Okay. And
And
that's,
also if they employ lobbyists, they have reporting requirements.
okay, so if they employ lobbyists also. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, any other questions or concerns? Before I accept the motion, the chair is open to a motion. Go ahead, Jake. Yeah.
I'd like to move that we accept the recommendations on the Title 14 waiver request.
Is there a
Second.
second? It's been properly seconded by, I heard Diane first, for our meeting minutes. Thank you very much, folks, for your robust participation. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you very much. So moved, unanimously approved. All right, moving on to agenda item number 8. There are 3 items up for final approval for the board to decide and vote on today. We are moving one of those items to a holding status. We've heard a lot and I think it was mentioned earlier during Vicky's introduction, of concern around 33.04.02.03 confidentiality of certain information. With that being said, we are a body and that is responsive to the general good and will of the people, and we will put that on hold for more discussion to be had prior to a final vote. Even after it's moved from proposed to final, it goes out for public comment, and we have heard a tremendous amount of comments from the public, and we will be holding that potential Kumar reg for further inspection. All right, with that being said, there are 2 remaining items on there. So I just discussed Roman numeral 3 under agenda item 8A final. 3 is going, Roman numeral 3 is on hold. Moving back to Roman numeral number 1, 33.04.01.02 definitions. Katie, do we have? Okay, Jay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that we were going to table all the final regulations just because they're all packaged together, was my understanding. And
Is that what?
Mr. Chair, that was my understanding as well, that we pull all of them because they were all related.
Okay. Any objections? All right. We will hold the final regulations, Kumar regulations, for further discussion. And thus, moving on to B, proposed. This is for introductory purposes. Before moving on to final, there will be a public comment period, so there will be no vote on the proposed regulations. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Mr. Chair, and correct me if I should know the answer to this. How do people make a public comment? Can they participate and talk to us during a meeting? Or is there a website? How do people make public comments to this board? And if it's not appropriate.
There's various ways of making public comment, either through requests to speak to the board, emails, outreach to the State Board of Election after the regulations have been posted. They can email, write letters, and reach out via phone to the State Board of Election as well.
And happy to add there that when they're sent for publication in the Maryland Registrar, they're out for publication for 30 days. And as part of that publication, each agency is required to give us specific contact. It's not the only way, but we do share with them the email and contact person with whom they can send their public comments. So it's out there with the proposed regulation publication.
Oh, good. Thank you.
All right, Katie, you want to give us an overview or presentation for each proposed reg?
Yes, Melissa is going to cover each of these items.
Thank you
Sure.
very much.
So there's kind of 3 buckets. The first one is the records management portion. It is 3303, 02, 01, 03, and 05. And I did give kind of a general explanation at the end in terms of what the change that we are affecting here. We are not changing anything about the process that we're currently using at the state board. Our regulation does not reflect all of the options that are available to voters. So voter lists can be purchased. Various types of lists can be purchased. When this regulation was written, the only list that was envisioned for purchasing was a list of all voters that were registered to vote. And since then, we've found that additional lists of voters have been requested by many people. And so we've made them available for purchase. One of them is a cure list, which is people who need to cure their ballots, those who are voted early, those who vote by mail, and those who vote provisionally. So we've added those to the defined terms in O1. When we move down to O3, this one's a little bit confusing, I think. The bracketed material are examples that were given in the reg, and some of them are just not timely anymore. We don't really print these out, things of that nature. And so the list also confuses people in that it is not a list of everything that is available. So now what we've done is we've moved to putting all of those options on a form and taking them out of the regulation. All of it, again, the information is all still available, but just, again, trying to move away from dated material or limiting lists. So that's O3. And then O5, we have a good amount of confusion about the timing for requesting the lists. And so we've just tried to, not everyone knows what the voter registration deadline is. So we've put these, we're speaking in terms of days instead of voter registration deadline, and then also provided that all of the lists have to be requested before the close of voter registration, but some of them don't make sense until after the election. And so the final number 3 down at the end says that. So you request it before the election, we give it to you when it makes sense. So those are the proposed changes for the voter registration list. And I'm happy to answer questions about that, or I can just move through to the voter registration application changes.
All right, it doesn't appear that there are any questions at this
Okay.
time.
They get easier as we go along too. The voter registration applications right now do not, the regulations weren't updated to reflect what the form actually requests, which is what the law requires. So we have changed what we ask in terms of the age of the person seeking to register to vote. And then we also only ask for the last 4 of the Social Security to reflect a legal change. So these are updates to that regulation. And then moving to the final one, 170605. It's just an incorrect reference that we noticed the last time we worked on these regs and put a pin in it to fix another day, and that day has come. So those are the 3 regulations.
And Melissa, if we have any questions later, can we just email you?
You can, and generally what happens, so we do ask that you guys vote on them now, and that moves them forward in the process. It goes to Department of Legislative Services, and it gets published and all of the things. And when the public comment period comes back, just like the first set of regulations, we'll bring all of that information back to you, and you would vote for your final vote. So that's generally the flow of how it goes. We do need a vote to move it forward. Whether that happens today is obviously the board's discretion, but that's the process.
Thank you.
Yep.
M-
Sure.
Go ahead, Jim.
Melissa, so do I take it that what you mentioned in your report has been recommended by the staff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And again, it's a reflection of the things that we are already doing as an agency, and come from both a combination of our voter registration division and Allen's division, because it is a lot of the parties that are looking for this information. We had a lot of confusion this election too, so we're just hoping to make it a little bit clearer and have the regs out there so that people can have it readily available.
And the staff recommends all these changes,
Mhm.
correct? Thanks.
Thank you, Melissa. I also wanted to keep it open for the new members coming on board for these proposed regulations if they would like to read them over prior to voting today. So the option is there. If you guys feel like you need a little more time, we'll be back here in July. If you'd like to review them prior to voting on them today, I don't want to present that as a must-have. But if you're
did-
okay and you're clear, if you've read over those regs, then we can move forward on the vote.
Well, Mr. Chair, did Melissa say that they're coming back to us at some point for a
They are,
final?
but we still need to vote on the proposed reg before moving to final. I wanted to hold it free, open today, because I wanted to give you guys ample time to review. Just in case you did not feel compelled to vote today. Victoria, I saw your hand first, and I'll go to Jake.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Chair, I did read everything that was forwarded to me. I feel comfortable voting today, knowing that it will come back for further discussion. So as one of the newer members, I'm feeling okay to vote today.
Okay. Jake.
I agree with Victoria.
Okay, Jake.
Vicky said it better than I could.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you all so very much. No, that's great. And understanding the votes are recorded, and at this time we're dealing with 33. Are we going to vote all lumped together or individually, the first three presented?
I think we can do them all together.
Any problems with that, guys? Dan?
No, sir, I think you have the discretion to call it that way.
Dan? All right, great. So the chair is open to a motion to accept the proposed, the State Board of Elections proposed regulations recently. Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move that we move forward with proposed regulations 33.03.02.01, 33.03.02.03, 33.03.02.05, 33.05.02.02, and 33.17.06.05.
I second.
All right, it's been properly seconded. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you guys so very much. It's unanimous and so moved. And with that, we are moving on to old business. Now with this delegation of duties, I have asked that our delegation of duties documents be shared with the new members. Go ahead, Katie.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. On Title 14, we neglected to review the contract waivers. So I wanted to see if we could do that now before moving on to old business.
Oh, okay. We just did late fees, didn't we? Okay, disclosure of contract information. All right. Truly apologize about that, Dan. I mean, Alan.
No problem.
And
And
Dan.
sorry, we haven't done these in like 5 years, so our new members will be just as fresh as the previous members. But we have 3 businesses asking not to disclose their contracts with the state. And you can see their reasoning. I think most of them are using the unduly burdensome reason. So I wanted to present that to the board for a vote. And we're all, I think we're recommending granting all 3 of them.
Now, what are their reasons? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Well, it's mostly unduly burdensome for the companies to disclose their contracts. And it says the public interest would not be impaired substantially by the omission of this information.
And some of them, I think, deal with law enforcement and stuff, et cetera. So I agree that we should approve those. Yeah.
Okay. Staff's looked at this. Staff recommends.
Correct.
Go ahead, Jake.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Norfleet, where are those documents? I didn't see them in the packet that Ms. Dennis sent around.
Lisa confirmed she sent them before the meeting. We can send them again. It's because we're treating these kind of like confidential voter because so we're not disclosing this to the public. Yeah. So
Yes.
I hope you can.
Yes, I
Do you have
found
it,
it.
Jake?
My
Okay.
yes, it was
All right.
attached to another email. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So you good to go? All right. The chair will entertain a motion.
Go ahead,
Go
Nick.
ahead, Diane.
I make a motion that we accept the disclosure of contract information.
Thank you very
Let's
much.
see.
Is there a second? It's been probably seconded by Vicky. Thank you. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. So move unanimously. Thank you guys so very much for that. Thank you, Katie, for helping with that. As we discussed earlier, delegation of duties is something we are in review. I would like to give all new members time to familiarize themselves with the delegation of duties for a more robust discussion in July. All right. This is also in concert with our most recent updated bylaws. So please review the bylaws in preparation for that. Okay. And yeah, okay, go ahead, Diane.
Okay, so delegation of duties, you just want us to review the bylaws? Is that what you're?
Bylaws and the delegation duties, those documents, the delegation of duty documents will be provided to you before the next meeting.
Okay, because I think I've seen the bylaws, but I don't think I've seen the delegation
Right.
of duties yet. Okay, and you'll
Correct.
get it.
And
Okay.
they are under, that's the purpose for them being under old business, is for us to scrub them and update them in
Right.
relation to the bylaws and new board members.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And yeah, yes, Victoria.
Yes,
Sorry.
Victoria's fine if you're more comfortable with that.
It's a little more formal in a presentation, but okay. Vicky,
I'm old
go
enough to
ahead.
accept Victoria now, so I'm
Okay.
good. I was just going to say I made a copy for myself of the bylaws, but I don't see you referenced delegation of duties.
They will be provided.
They will be
It's
provided.
important
Okay.
to review the bylaws in concert with the
Okay. All right. Thank you.
delegation of duties.
Thank you.
So that you have a fair understanding of the process and our obligations.
Mhm.
Okay, as board members. All right. With that being said, before we move on to new business, in the next item in the agenda, we do have a guest speaker. Katie, you mind introducing or bringing on our guest speaker, who will have a prescribed set of time to address the board?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Nelson is joining us to briefly discuss some matters that pertain to the primary election. So Ms. Nelson, thank you for joining us. Are you able to join us on video?
I'm here, but I don't see my video. Okay, here we go, I guess.
And it's okay if you don't have video access. We can hear the audio. And we greatly appreciate you being here. If you could introduce yourself and
Let's
your
see.
issue.
Okay. That should do it.
Oh, there you are. Hello. You
Okay.
have the floor.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, board members, and guests. My name is Mary Nelson, and I live in Cecil County, Maryland. I'd like to bring a few concerns to the attention of the board and the administrator as preparations are underway for the general election. The first one is the scanner settings. The scanner settings were evidently altered from 2022 to 2024 in relation to undervoted, overvoted, and blank ballots. Cecil County went from 2 blank ballots in 2020 to 680 in 2022. Most of the counties had large increases in 2022 and 2 had fewer. When canvassing this spring, I asked to see any totally blank ballots. I was shown 2 the first morning. And I said that we would be able to see the total number of blank ballots on the printout at the end of the day, but I was told that they would not show as they were now counted as undervoted. My question is, why were the scanner settings changed this year, and what does it say about the 2022 election count? But since the settings used in the 2024 primary was undervoted for the blank ballots, it's important for continuity that the same setting be used in the 2024 general election. So I'm assuming that since the state personnel control the settings on the machines, that all counties had the same settings. I don't believe the results have been posted yet, at least I haven't found them, but I'm asking that you please keep the settings the same for the general election as they were in the primary election. And that is, blank ballots are being listed now as undervoted. The second thing is that the next issue involves the two-page ballot and the scanners. Since only the first page triggers a count on the scanners, if someone mails back only the second page, during canvassing, a blank page is inserted into the scanner along with the second page so that it counts as a vote. That leaves us wide open for fraud, especially in tight competitions. During canvassing, when the voter's signature was missing or their intent couldn't be determined, the ballots and envelopes were pulled, and the owner had to come into the office by 10 a.m. on May 24th to sign or confirm intent. To solve the missing first page issue, they could also be required to bring in their first page, or they could be handed a blank first page to put into the envelopes themselves to be counted on the final day of canvassing. And that takes the third party out of the equation on that. One way around the scanner counting the two-page ballot issue is to increase the length of the ballot paper and decrease the font until the ballot is a one-page, two-sided ballot. Or, as preferred by a number of Maryland citizens, we would count the ballots by hand. The third issue that I'd like to address is that I don't know if this was an issue in any other county, but in Cecil County, on the Republican sample ballot, the watermark word sample was in capital and bold black letters instead of as a watermark in the background. And it totally covered the District 1 race for US Congress. And I don't know if you can see it there, how black it is. There were really no words entered under that. And my problem is with it that I don't think they should ever have been distributed. The other problem, the other Republican races on that and the Democrat races were only mildly covered up so that you could really read them. It was just the first district Republican one that was totally obliterated. It was suggested that the other problem that there was on the sample ballot was the mail-in ballot request deadline. The Times had a number sign instead of the deadline time. And it was suggested that this happened if space was short. But again, I don't believe that it should have been sent out with the deadline times missing. And I noticed in September, it looks like there's only 3 days for ballot approval. So I'm not sure if this happened at the printer later or, when it happened, but I would like to see that addressed. I feel badly for the contestants that were covered up.
No, and we really appreciate that, Mary. We're getting close to your time. I do
Okay.
appreciate the comments that you brought
I do
forward
have
to the board. And what we wanted to do is have you work with Katie and the state board of election to address many of these concerns that are justly brought forward, and we
Okay.
recognize that. So for the motion, for the purpose of time, definitely
But may I just say that I wasn't given a time and I presented this full.
We have your records. Yes, we have
Right,
your
but I
draft.
was not given a time limit. So I
Okay.
thought that the 5
That-
minutes would be all
That's
right.
on us. Yes, you've used ample time. Thank you so very much. Effectively, we will work with you outside of this forum to address that. Our state board of elections. I do appreciate what you presented. And I apologize that you weren't provided with our time limit for speaking. Okay, I truly apologize. But if there are any, hello, is she still there? Did they cut her?
She's her
Mary?
box is still on the screen, Mr. Chair.
Is she, Mary? I see your box. Can you hear us?
Oh, okay. I don't see my
Okay.
box.
Well, we see you. If there's any questions for the board members of Mary, please at this time. If there are any questions, we will like to work with Mary, and Catherine will be, or the State Board of Election will be back in touch with you to receive your recommendations. because like I said, they are valid. And most of the references you were making to the sample ballots were at the LBE level. So we definitely want to work with you in creating that consistency. So thank you so very, very much for bringing those forward. Diane.
Mary, I wanted to thank you for for doing such a good job. And I think a lot of these are technical questions. That's why I'm asking, who we can talk to make sure that we go through each one of these. And I think I have the copy of what you've written. And I think that'll be very helpful. And I do appreciate you bringing all of this to us. And I'm sorry that you got cut off. But I think it is important to check on these types of things, even though it's not totally our bailiwick. We have enough people here on the staff that can explain it to us and help us work through it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Diane.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Again, thank you very, very much, Mary, on behalf of the board. We truly appreciate your due diligence and your efforts in keeping us informed and aware. Thank you. All right. Moving on to new business, seeing none. Disclosure of campaign contributions. Are there any campaign contributions to be disclosed at this time? I saw Diane first, and then I'll go to Jim.
Yes, I went to the MDGOP dinner. The tickets were $185.
Okay, well, you will file that, share that information with the State Board of State Board. As I think we have a disclosure form. Is Dan still with us?
I'm still here. There's no formal, so Ms. Butler is not a campaign finance entity. There's no filing.
Can hear you.
You're not a campaign finance,
Right.
you're not running for office, but I'm wondering, is there a formal process for disclosure other than a verbal commitment during the open meeting?
No, there
Okay.
has not been. It has been this verbal disclosure during meetings.
Okay. Thank you very much, Diane. Greatly appreciate that. Jim?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I don't know if these are reportable, but to be safe, I closed out my campaign account, which went back to 2014. I've run for office a number of times. And I had to clean up and pay all old campaign debts. And there was an $1,100 amount that I owed the Montgomery County GOP for a fundraising event in 2014. So I paid the MCGOP $1,100 to clean up that old debt from 2014. And I went to the same dinner with Diane. I paid $10 less, Diane. I paid $10 less. I paid $175 to go to, I sat at a table that was organized by a friend of mine named Dwight Patel. He bought a table and I wrote him a check for $175 to sit at his table at the, I lost everybody here.
No,
Can you see me?
We see you.
See, it cost me
have you.
$10 more to sit
Can you
with
hear
Nicole.
us?
See, I
We
need
see
David
you.
Walker. There, I need David Walker. So where was I? So I sat at Dwight Patel's table, good friend of mine. He bought the table. I wrote him a check for $175. So that and the $1,100 to the MCGOP, neither, in my view, is a campaign contribution, but in today's world of transparency, we want to make sure everybody is aware of any expenditures that I have.
Yeah, better
I don't know
safe
if they're
than sorry. Thank you
applicable.
very
I'm
much.
not sure if they're applicable, but I'd
They
rather.
may or they may not be, but it's great to be transparent. So thank you so very, very much.
Okay.
Better safe than sorry.
Yes.
Appreciate both of you guys. Go ahead, Jake.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so my colleagues know, I just check in with Dan and he tells me whether or not something is reportable. And so out of an abundance of caution, similar transparency, not a campaign finance contribution, but I did donate $54 to Scott Cronin, who is a Democratic delegate to the DNC, who's just raising money to help make his way there. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Chair.
very much. Vicky?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Better safe than sorry, I think you said. Before the primary, and before I sat on this body, I made a $100 donation to Angela Alsobrooks' campaign. And
That's fine.
that's
Yes.
fine.
That was
I thought
before
so,
you
but
were sworn in.
better
but
safe
that's-
than
thank you
sorry.
for being-
And also
yes.
prior to being on
Clear.
this body, this board, I was mayor of the city of Cambridge, and my treasurer, Ella Stanley, I'll throw her name out there, has informed me that we have like a couple of $100 still in that campaign checking account. And I just made note to self, call Ella and close out that mayor's account. Is that the appropriate thing to do here? I don't even know how much money's there anymore because we haven't spoken on that particular topic. But I know it's under Jackson Stanley for mayor or something like that. Is it
I
significant?
don't know if it's a requirement, but I will lend our AG on that.
AG?
And the AG will discuss this with you in a place where we can maintain attorney-client privilege.
I
Or I
appreciate
can
Come
that.
on.
refer you to speak to another attorney
I-
instead of on a public.
I'll
call.
wait for you, Dan, since you know what I'm referring to, and whatever you say to do, I will do.
Thank you very, very much, folks. As we move along to our next agenda item, number 12, as scheduling our next meeting, it is recommended, or we typically have our meetings the fourth Thursday. I'm looking at every month. I'm looking at my calendar now, or attempting to. And July, either we have two options. Hopefully July 23rd, everyone is open to at 2:30 p.m. Can you all confirm July 23rd is, I know we typically have it registered set for Thursdays. This particular week, one of our board members will not be available, and I'd like for everyone to be present.
Tuesday works for me.
Tuesday
Can-
works for you.
Can you
Yes, sir,
repeat the
Tuesday
date and
works.
time?
July 23rd,
At-
2:30.
July 23rd at 2:30. That works for me, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. I'm
Yes,
glad
sir.
to hear that.
Works for me.
Excellent. So I think we're good with putting that notice out, but also Katie, do we have an emergency? Do we need a placeholder for an emergency board meeting with regards to Prince George's County, or are we
Mm,
okay with it?
Yeah. Probably.
We can't hear you.
I'm sorry, Dan, do we want to do a placeholder just in case there's anything that needs to be discussed?
I think that would be prudent, yes. If Monday of next week is available, we might want to hold that as a placeholder.
Monday of next week, that will be July 1st?
Yes.
All right, July 1st. And folks, can you look at your calendars for July 1st? And 2 to anytime, I guess 2 to 3.
I'm open.
Same.
I'll make it work.
Yeah, that works.
So let's say 2 o'clock.
But that's an if and maybe, right? It's not
Yes,
a-
it is. It's a placeholder.
That's good. Thank you.
So July 1st at 2 and then July 23rd at 2:30.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you guys so very, very much for that. Greatly appreciate it. Now, moving on, I will be presenting moving us into a closed session this go around, and then moving to adjournment. I recommend that we not come back to the open meeting after our closed session. And with that, I will present to you statutory authority to close session. This meeting will be closed under general provision, Article Section 3-305B only, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice. That is section 3-305B7. This statement is made by me, the presiding officer, Michael Summers. Is there a motion to approve the closed session?
I move we
Mr.
approve the closed session.
I
Thank
second,
you
Mr.
very
Chair.
much. It was moved by Diane and seconded by Vicky. Thank you both so very much. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. All right. Thank you so very much. Now we are moved to closed session and we are now adjourned for our open session. There, we will not be